Hello, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Kubeir and you are watching YouTube. You're watching this channel on YouTube. So welcome to the channel. Today's broadcast is about, let me just open the comments before I can start, before I start missing them. So today's live broadcast or today's live stream is, I'm going to bring this mic forward, is about the final announcement of when is the hotel quarantine going to be effective from. Canada has become more strict with the border restrictions because the COVID is just not, we're just not able to get rid of it yet. Not only are we not able to get rid of it yet, there are also talks that we can expect the third wave coming in, and the modeling, as the health experts have been talking about, the modeling for the third wave is not looking very nice or encouraging. So as of today, Ontario is still at, under the stay-at-home orders, okay? And so these are very strict restrictions at this point of time, and Canada is only further imposing more restrictions so that they can keep everything in check. The COVID cases have obviously reduced, the numbers have reduced, but they want to make sure that they don't have another outbreak, they don't sort of put more pressure on our health systems. So that's one of the reasons why newer measures are being taken place. What are the new measures? Well, the first one is that if you are coming from the land border, when I'm saying land border, Canada shares land border only with the United States of America. So if you are coming via land border, via car, via whatever means of transport you might be using, you will now need a negative PCR COVID test. This will be effective the 15th of February, and you will need a negative PCR COVID test, which should have been taken in no earlier than 72 hours before you come at the border check post. Okay, so you will need that. If you don't have it, okay, then the border officers can turn you back and tell you, go back, go and get a negative PCR test. But if you are a Canadian citizen, then they obviously by law cannot allow you, or rather cannot deny you entry into Canada. So if you don't have a COVID test at that point of time, there could be implications in terms of a financial penalty, which I think is about $3,000 you could be fined. All right. And once you do come inside Canada, you still have to undergo a mandatory quarantine for 14 days. So the hotel quarantine does not apply to the land border, does not apply to the travelers coming by land. Okay. So what are the other restrictions? The other restrictions which are already in place is that before you are arriving into Canada from any international airport, if you're an air traveler, if you're arriving by air, then you mandatorily need to have a negative COVID PCR test. PCR test is considered to be the gold standard now. And you need to have a negative test taken 72 hours before you are boarding the flight to Canada. So you will need that. The airports or the airport of departure or the airline may not allow you to board. If you come into Canada without a negative test, then again, you could face a penalty. Okay, that is the first thing. Once you will arrive in Canada, at least in Ontario, there is already a quarantine. Sorry, there is already a COVID test that you need to take on arrival, but that has been applied by the provincial government. But effective, and that is what you are waiting for, effective the 22nd of February, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has just announced about, I think, 40 minutes back, that effective 22nd of February, hotel quarantine will now come into force, which basically means that once you arrive into Canada, and you could arrive at any of these 4 international airports, Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal. Once you arrive at this airport, you will have to undergo a mandatory COVID test on arrival. And then you will be transported by the authorities to a hotel, which you will have to book, which has been approved as one of the institutional facility by the government. And you will mandatorily have to quarantine in that hotel, in that facility, while the tests are basically, the results of the tests are declared. And once you get the results of the test, and if it is negative, you will then be allowed to complete the remainder portion of your 14 days quarantine in any other facility that you basically have arranged. So if you have a home in Canada, you can go back home. If you have other facilities that you have arranged where you will be living, residing, and completing your 14 days quarantine, then you'll be allowed to go back to that facility. Now, on the 7th day, you will have to undertake another COVID test. Okay. Now, this is how serious this is becoming. Not only that, while you are under quarantine at your home or wherever the facility that you've arranged, you can expect increased level of supervision. You can expect a visit by a health authority official or from the provincial authorities, who will then come and check and probably pay you a visit to see if you are actually quarantining and not, and you haven't scooted off and you're going on for a short visit to the supermarket or somewhere. So before you come to Canada, make sure you have proper quarantine facilities which you have already arranged, which you have already booked. You need to have that before you arrive in Canada. You will need to declare the facility. You will need to declare your quarantine plan through the ArriveCan app. The cost, so the first 3 days that you will arrive in Canada and you will be asked to quarantine in this hotel, the cost for this hotel is being estimated to be over. Okay, it's not 2,000 exact. It is probably going to be more than $2,000. More details are going to be announced today. And as of right now, it applies to all. Okay, all international travelers. Now, when I say all, what does that all mean? All means if you are a returning Canadian citizen, it applies to you. If you are a returning permanent resident, it applies to you. If you are a new immigrant who is looking to land in Canada, it applies to you. If you are an international student, it applies to you. If you are coming here, on a spousal visa, spousal application, whatever kind of application you're coming to, it applies to you as well, as of this point of time when I'm speaking at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the reason why I'm giving that small disclaimer is that they will be announcing a list of exemptions, or they will be announcing the certain class or category of people who will be exempted. And one of them would be the essential workers. Now, the definition of essential worker hasn't been clarified. I think there is another press conference which is going on right now with the Minister of Health and Minister of Transport, and they will be giving more information. So you can rest assured I will be posting it again on the Facebook groups or wherever the information you seek out. If you are not on my Instagram, do join Instagram, because usually I tend to post there first and then it follows on all our other social media channels. So do look out for the information, the exemption list, whatever it is, as and how it becomes available, as and how it becomes known, I will post it. You will have it, you will know. But as of now, all international travelers who are coming into Canada, it includes all category of people. As of right now, they will have to quarantine mandatorily in a hotel, which can cost you upwards of $2,000 for the 3-day period. A lot of you have been asking, why the hell is it costing so much, right? And Justin Trudeau actually explained that and said, while they don't want to penalize anybody, it's the choice you're making. You shouldn't have to travel at this point of time. You should not travel at this point of time. And if you're traveling at this point of time, this is the choice you're making. And if it's a choice you're making, then you should pay for the choice. All right. I know for a lot of you out there, it is not a choice. You probably will have a very short duration of your approval letters. You would have a very short duration of your visa left, or the validity left, and you may have to travel, or you may have booked your flight, God knows, months in advance, weeks in advance, and you have to travel. I can understand that, but as of right now, given these circumstances, and one of the reasons why they are imposing these increased number of restrictions is basically with the new virus variations or variants that have been discovered, and they want to sort of avoid any more breakouts that might happen. If during your quarantine in the hotel for 3 days period, so what does that include? It includes your transportation to the hotel, your hotel stay. It has been confirmed, but I would assume that it may also include the meals during your stay. It would include additional security. It would include that these hotels now have to take more measures. They have to take stronger measures to ensure that your health and safety has been taken care of. Once you vacate the rooms, and again, it has to be cleansed with the COVID protocols in mind. The sanitation levels have to be extremely high, and these hotels are now preparing themselves to host all these passengers who will be coming in. Most of these hotels will be in the vicinity of the airports, in these 4 international airports that I just told you about. Now, what happens if your test is negative? Well, if your test is negative, you can continue with your 14 days quarantine, as I just explained, in the location that you have identified, your home, your booking, wherever you might have for your remaining period of your quarantine. But if you test positive, okay, now that is where it becomes a bit serious. Now, if you test positive in the COVID test that will happen, you will then be moved to a federal institutional facility. You will not continue staying in the hotel. Don't worry about it. You will be moved to the federal institution for quarantine. The details of that again have not been given. I would love to give you as much details as possible, but I can only bring out as much has been declared or published or announced, because otherwise it will be speculating, and we don't want to be doing that, right? So if at all you test positive, you will be moved to this federal facility, and you will have to complete your period of quarantine, and you will be kept under observation to make sure that that you are not going to be infecting anybody else. You would sort of be in complete isolation from there on, and there would be further tests. And once you are absolutely fine, and you would then obviously can continue wherever you're going. These, for people who are transiting from these airports, Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, you will have to quarantine the first 3 days in the airport that you will land. You will not be quarantining in your final destination. This first 3 days of mandatory quarantine is in the first location that you will arrive. So, for example, if you are flying into Nova Scotia, you will arrive in Montreal or Toronto, okay, and after you have completed your 3 days hotel quarantine, then you can continue with your destination. I mean, you can continue a journey ahead to your final destination. Okay, same thing goes for different locations in Alberta. So if you're going to Edmonton, you will first need to quarantine in Calgary, and once you've completed your 3-day quarantine, then you can move forward. So these are the restrictions. This is the details that have been announced. This will be effective 22nd of February. So if you still have 10 days. So if you're still flying in, you may want to do that. Another thing I want to again emphasize, I did a video on this a few days back. I think it was on Sunday. If your visas have been issued, if your COPR, your PR visas have been issued after the 18th of March, please do not travel. You are not allowed to travel. People who have been taking that risk, people who have been taking that chance are getting stuck, and they're getting stuck real bad. So don't do that. Please do not travel if your visas have been issued after the 18th of March. Another update that we had, which actually we announced yesterday, and that was quite welcoming. That was much better of an update. And that was this. It was a tweet from Canada and India, which is the official channel of Canada in India, of course. And this was about the biometrics for the economic permanent resident streams. Now, economic permanent resident streams includes all kinds of economic classes. So you have all the classes under the express entry system. So your what do you have there? You have your federal skilled worker, you have your CEC, Canadian Experience class, you have federal skilled trade categories, all those classes. Everybody who is under the express entry, they will be able to complete their biometrics, for which they have been waiting for months and months and months together. All right. You also, people who have applied under the startup visa, under the investor visas, under the Quebec class, AIPP, under the RNIP, under the provincial nominations, provincial nominee programs, all of you will also be able to request for your biometric appointments. This is going to be starting, it says over here, beginning next week. So more information will come through as to what will be the effective date. But if they are saying next week, I would assume anytime starting from 15th Feb onwards, they could announce it when it will be effective. So yeah, keep your eyes open for this one. This was extremely a welcoming news, which a lot of people were waiting for, and we finally have that. I don't think any category of permanent resident visas are remaining anymore. I think almost everybody can now get their biometrics done. The only category that is still waiting for any news now would be the visit visas, the TRVs, the temporary resident visa applications. So if you are under those application class, I guess the wait is going to be longer. They would have a lot of backlog of these PR applications. There are several. I think they're in thousands, right? And so all these now backlogs will have to be cleared, and only once these are cleared and once restrictions are normalized as far as Canada is concerned, then probably you could see some visit visa applications coming up as well, as in for the biometrics. But until such time, I don't see that happening. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, you must, because that's what we do here, right? Give you information, updates, tips, tricks. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And yeah, that is more or less from me. Let's see some questions here. There are plenty of questions. Okay, before I get to that, let me get this sorted. Right. So if you are watching and you still haven't received your ITA, obviously that is another thing which I think we did a video on that as well yesterday, and that was more to do with the federal skilled worker draws. We were expecting a draw yesterday. It did not happen, Canadian experience class. We are expecting it today as well. Hopefully it will happen. If not today, I mean, whenever it happens, we know for a fact that there's a Canadian experience class draw around the corner. If you have received your ITA oh, sorry, I wanted to remove this and show you this one instead. Yes, right. So that's our masterclass. And if you have received your ITA, if you're still submitting your application, and if you're still not able to figure out what to do, then you should join our received ITA now what masterclass session. The first session is for tomorrow, but that has actually been sold out. So 13th February session was already sold out. It actually got over pretty quick. But if you are still looking for, I mean, if you still haven't submitted your application, you have received your ITA, you not know what to do, then you should check out our 27th of February Saturday session. Those slots are still open. And obviously, if you're still creating your Express Entry profile, you could check out this particular session, which is on the 19th, which is next week. And if you are struggling with your proof of work experience, then you could also check out this particular session, which is on the 20th of February. So yeah, you should check this out. Again, it's a DIY, do it yourself, but we will just guide you how this needs to be done. Something which you should keep an eye on, and it is quite helpful. Myself, I'm an ICCRC licensed immigration consultant. My colleague, Nicolette, most of you know her already, also licensed immigration consultant. My another colleague, Muhammad Abrar Khan, also licensed immigration consultant. We all have put together all this material so that we can teach you step by step what exactly needs to be done, what you need to be careful about, what you need to be watchful about. Okay, now we come back, get rid of this, come back to your questions. Okay, does this hotel quarantine include international students as well? Well, as of right now, from the first set of information that has come out, it includes all international travelers. If there is an exemption, that probably will be announced by the day as we progress. And if there is an exemption to that, keep an eye out open, and we would post it on our Facebook groups. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, then you should. So I would expect certain more categories of people to be given exemption, because I understand essential workers would be exempted. Now, the definition of essential workers has not been cleared as to who would constitute as essential workers in such scenario. Would the new immigrants who are coming in and landing in Canada for the first time, would they come under essential workers? Would people who have work permits, will they come under essential workers? So this clarification has to come in. There should be a press conference happening right now. The summary of that, again, as I said, we will be posting it soon. And okay, Piyush says, we did soft landing in 2019, now coming to Toronto to settle permanently in March. Do you feel we would face any issues? No, you would not face any issues as in why you're traveling to Canada. That would not be fine. But whatever would be the applicable restrictions, quarantine, that you definitely will face. So you will need a quarantine, you will need a quarantine plan. And if hotel quarantine is still in place by the time you arrive, then you will have to undergo that as well. Vishal says, we have completed our biometric from Nepal on 28th of Jan, and on calling IRCC, they informed us that only security check is pending. When can we expect COPR? My AOR is 22 October. Well, I don't think COPR is going to come anytime soon, because you see, even if your COPR is issued, you can't travel. Okay, that is the restriction, that is the requirement imposed on all visas issued after the 18th of March. If you're issued a visa after the 18th of March, you will not be allowed to travel. Yes, some visa offices did release PPRs, they did release or they did issue visas, but even those people got a letter stating that they cannot travel at this point of time. I don't expect IRCC from different visa offices to be finalizing the applications anytime soon. You could have had your application in progress for the last 1 year, but at this point of time, they're all stuck. They've all been approved. They've all been finalized. They're just sitting, waiting to be released, which I think they will only do it once the restrictions are eased out. So I don't expect COPRs to be released anytime soon. They obviously will be isolated cases. There are always going to be some applications which get released. Why they get released, why not the others? I don't have an answer to that one. Okay, by and large, you would notice some PNP applications get released. By and large, you will notice applications for people who are in the United States, they get released because they do not have the same exemptions, or they do not have the same restrictions. They have certain exemptions that they can still travel. So usually, in most cases, those are the people who would get it. But I know that there are a lot of people in India as well who have been able to get their PPRs. But as I said, if your visa is issued after the 18th of March, you cannot travel at this point of time, and you shouldn't. Okay, Joshua says, my IELTS expires in December this year and my EE profile expires in October. If I get an ITA before my profile expires, will I have to write it again? Good question. If you get an ITA before your IELTS expires, you don't have to write your ITA again if you submit your application before your IELTS expires. So what is the requirement is that on the date you submit your PR application, your express entry application, your IELTS should be valid on that particular date. And the date of validity is from the test date, from the date you write your test, and it is not from the date you get your results. So a lot of people get confused. The IELTS results validity is from the date of the test, not from the date you got your results. So please make sure you calculate that properly. Your IELTS needs to be valid on the day you submit your application. Okay. Okay. Jay says, I'm working as a clinic manager, I believe, which comes under essential worker. We have a death in the family back home India. Can we apply for exemption? If yes, then how? Jay, as I said, we do not know as to who comes under essential workers. You may feel that you are working in a certain section like healthcare and therefore you are exempted. That may not necessarily be the definition of what they are talking about as essential workers. It basically will vary in how the exemptions are allowed. And however that will happen, the more information will be released probably by today evening or tomorrow early morning. You can come back to the Facebook group. I will post it there as to how and what the exemptions are and how they will apply. Sunil Gaur, thank you for the super chat. He says, my marriage is in April. Can I go and get married and come back to Canada? I'm on a work permit and my PR is in process under CEC AOR May 2020. Yes, of course you can, I mean, you're getting married, buddy. I mean, congratulations. That's quite a happy moment until you realize you're married, and then it's not so happy moment. Most of the guys who are married, they say the same thing. So your marriage is in April. Yeah, absolutely. You can go ahead, go get married. No problem with that. You are on work permit. You have valid visa, valid status to come back to Canada. You can definitely return back to Canada. No problem with that. Bhuvan says, with hotel quarantine, any hope for relaxation for people with COPR issued after March 18? I do not understand why everybody tries and associates all the news or updates that comes with the post 18th March travel. Okay. The reason why these restrictions are being placed is to increase the level of restrictions, to increase or rather reduce the number of people coming in. Why would you think that this would ease the restrictions on or relax the restrictions post 18th March? I mean, you need to be logical with this thing. The reason why they're bringing this is because they do not want people to travel. And you're asking if you can now travel. So those things don't add up, right? I mean, just think about it. So no, this does not mean that at all. You should not confuse, you should not assume, you should not make those kind of assumptions. These restrictions, these things that are being put in place is to discourage people that they should not travel at this point of time. All right, I hope I have clarified that for you. Hassan Server, you have been banned from my groups for no apparent reason. When you might think it's a no apparent reason, but we do not ban people from our groups for no apparent reason. There is always a reason. We have a very, very active team of moderators, and they're always keeping an eye out on people who post something, who comment something, who put some commercial posts, who put some unacceptable posts. And if yours was not such a reason, then please write back to one of the moderators and request for them to review it. And I don't think then it will be a problem. But if your post or your comment was something which was against the group rules and policies, then I guess the action was taken in the right spirit. Okay, Meher says, do you expect biometric on first come, first serve, or people waiting for long may get priority? Well, Meher, I think it will be based on how soon you apply and get an appointment. I doubt they will be able to prioritize as to how long people have been waiting. I'm not sure. Again, I'm sure they must have thought of some sort of a process. The details will again be published by next week. However, just the way they did with the student applications, just the way that they did with other applications so far, there was no priority. If you could secure an appointment and you had a biometric request letter, then you could go and give it. So I think that there's going to be a crazy amount of rush because there is a lot of backlog. And if you can get an appointment, then you would be able to get it done. Kimbo says, where is the group? Well, you would find the link in the description box. If you go to this video's description box, you would find the link for our Facebook groups. Priyanka says, I'm residing in Canada now with open work permit and spouse having closed work permit. If we go outside Canada and return back, do I require job offer or authorization to travel? Well, you will need to prove as to why you are coming back and if you have a job for you to travel back to Canada or not, both you and your spouse. And both of you, I mean, since you have valid work permits and valid visas, then you should be able to come back. Sunil Gaur, thank you for the super chat. He says, what are the chances of my spouse getting a visitor visa after I come back? Because I'm thinking of inland spousal sponsorship. She's in India and has never traveled outside. What's your advice? The chances of getting a visit visa with the profile that you have mentioned are a bit difficult, okay? But the fact that you are a permanent resident and your spouse being the close family member, you can definitely apply for one and take a chance with that. You can apply under dual intent after you have submitted her sponsorship application, but you want to sponsor once she comes to Canada. Now, for that, you will obviously need her to have a visit visa. The chances of approval are always slim in such cases. And the reason for that is because you being the husband, you being the spouse are in Canada, and therefore the ties to Canada become stronger. And under the assessment criteria for TRVs, temporary resident visas, the ties are the most important. And if the visa officer is not convinced that the applicant will be able to comply with the ties or the push-pull factor, then the visas are usually refused. Hotel quarantine is applicable for anyone who lands in Canada. Yes, as of right now, they will be listing out the exemption list soon. As of right now, this applies to all international travelers arriving by air. Kimbo says, are you talking about express entry biometric? Yes, I am talking about express entry biometric, or rather I was talking about express entry biometrics. Walid says, if student is granted study visa, can he postpone study? Wow. Okay. If you're already granted a study visa application, you can defer your study program. Now, if the deferment is longer than 150 days, then you need to submit a new application. Okay. It's very tricky. It's always not suggested. But if you are going to defer your program, and if it is more than 150 days, you must get a new admission acceptance letter and obviously submit a new application to IRCC. When is the expiry for medicals? The date when we take or the date when it gets updated? Good question. It usually is from the date you have taken the medicals, but in a lot of cases, the validity is also attached to the date the medicals get uploaded into the IRCC portal. It is not from the date that it gets updated in your CIC account. No, it's either the date you have taken the medicals or the last time you visited the doctor, or the date the medicals are uploaded to the IRCC health portal. Okay. Ashta says, I'm yet to give my biometrics, but my medical is about to expire this month. I haven't got re-medicals request. Will we get it? Don't see the connection there. You have to get your biometrics done, get it done. Don't worry about it. If your medicals are about to expire, IRCC will let you know when you need to retake your medicals. Only take your medicals once IRCC asks for it. Otherwise, it won't really, it's not going to make any difference, because they will not finalize any applications at this point of time. The later you take your medicals, the longer your duration of validity would be. Markup says, I am of the category of post 18th March and have received AL on the basis of intent to settle permanently in Canada. Can the AL be a mistake from IRCC? Well, no. If you have the AL, if you have the authorization to travel, and you are one of those very, very few lucky ones, then by all means, the authorization basically is the authorization. It is your authority, or rather it's the authority for you to travel, and you have been exempted. So you are one of the lucky ones. Excellent. Go for it, my friend. Kevin says, what if I've taken 2 doses of vaccine? Would I still have to quarantine? Yes, there is no exemption at this point of time for anybody, even if you have taken the vaccine. Wow, Sunil Gaur is on a roll. Thank you again for the super chat. She is in Z News working. What's your suggestion? How I can proceed so that we can be together in less time? Sorry, I'm so stressed. We have been apart for the last 8 years, long distance. I absolutely understand. And trust me, this condition is I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this situation. But there is nothing you can do except apply for her visit visa. What you can do is apply or have her apply for a visit visa before you get married. Now, before you get married, she will then apply for a visit visa on her own as an individual. The problem is, if she applies for a visit visa now, at this point of time, visit visas are not being processed because they are not considered as essential travel. So it's a catch-22 situation. You need to get married, then you are the close family member, and based on that, she can apply for a visit visa, and you can ask for it to be expedited. But then the ties to Canada becomes stronger, and then the chances for refusal are high. You have no other option but to take that chance. To be very honest, provide as much documents as you can to show ties to home country. Apart from that, unfortunately, nothing much but to hope and pray for the best. Viraj says, can I postpone the travel with AL already issued but valid till 1st of March? You can, of course you can, but do let IRCC know. I would not do that. The reason I would not do that is because at a later duration of time, when IRCC does start regularizing and start issuing the new extensions, there could be a very long wait time. Okay. If I was in your place, I would just come now, regularize my status, and then do what I need to do. But I'm sure you have your own reason for not being able to travel at this point of time. But yes, you will still be able to apply for extension. And that's what we understand at this point of time. Do let IRCC know that you cannot travel. Give your reasons. Tell them you would like to apply for the extension. And COVID is always a very, very strong, good, acceptable reason. Has the $2,000 for the 3-day quarantine been confirmed? Yes, it has been confirmed as the indicative amount. And what has also been indicated that the amount may actually be more than 2,000, not less. So what will happen is, once the list of the hotels is released, which I think they should do by today or tomorrow at the earliest, you will then be able to book the hotels directly by making the payment. So that is what you will need to do. And you will then be able to figure out how much it's going to cost you. Imran says, which checks of PR applications are dependent on biometric completion? Criminality, security, and information sharing. Those are the 3 checks that are dependent on your biometrics. Waiting for biometrics starting next week, but can we expect to get COPR at least by mid of this year? I just explained that they are not releasing COPRs at this point of time. I don't expect them to be releasing it anytime soon. It all depends on how the COVID situation is. If it comes in control, if the things start getting better, then we can expect more, a bit of the relaxation on that front. Until that time, I don't expect the COPRs to be released anytime soon. Samreen says, any idea if 3 days hotel quarantine charges are applied per person or per family? It is applied per person, but for family which will be quarantining in the same room who are traveling together, there could be a different price, which basically would be a family rate kind of a thing. I'm sure there is as a family, the amount will be less. That amount, I think, will be available to you by today or tomorrow once the list of the hotels where you can make the bookings will be released. When is the Newfoundland and Labrador PNP results will come out, as I have already submitted my EOI? Well, first of all, you are very lucky to have been able to submit your expression of interest. That was a good thing. When they will release, we don't know. They don't really announce as to when they will be releasing their notifications of interest. When it will happen, trust me, we will all come to know about it. Sharanya says, if my profile expires and I make a new one, which date of submission will be considered for a tiebreaker? If it expires, it is expired, right? It is no longer valid. If you make a new one, then obviously the profile, which is the new one, that date of creation will apply. Yeah. Can you please let me know the validity of medicals? I just did. You can, if you did not see it or if you did not hear it, I suggest you watch this again. Gary says, my PR file is in process. My LMIA expires in April and I lose 50 points after that. Will my PR application be rejected? No. Your LMIA needs to be valid for you to be able to submit your PR application or your work permit application. If you have submitted your application while the LMIA was valid, then you're good. Don't worry. You're good. Don't worry at all. What is the current timeline for web form response? There is no timeline for web form response. Earlier, it used to be 3 to 5 days. Then it became 7 to 14 days. Then it became 14 to 21 days. As of right now, you'll be lucky even if you get a response. I mean, okay, in most cases, depending on your query, you will get a response. But if it's a very generic query that you sent out, then don't be surprised if you don't hear back. How long is the PR processing time for CEC candidates? At the last count, it is about 8 months. Is it advisable to raise GCMS notes? My AOR is 10th of December, UAE resident, secondary office. Of course, yeah. I mean, go ahead. December 2020. I mean, what information will you get in only, 2 months? I mean, the average processing times are now looking more than 12, 14, 16 months. And within 2 months, what information will you get? You won't get anything. Wait till at least 4th month and then apply for GCMS notes. Devi says, if one is coming through land border, then one also has to do hotel quarantine. I explained that already. You can watch this video from the beginning. Land border does not need to quarantine in a hotel at this point of time. They only need to have negative COVID test. Preeti says, if me and my spouse applying for study and my spouse is applying for an open work permit in a single application, if his employer is providing a letter which allows him to continue a job even after moving, I do not know what the question there is. So we don't know. What are we talking about here? Kimbu says, my express entry PR is being processed dependent on my biometric. Will I go to Canada this year? My medical will expire in July. Whether you will travel to Canada this year or not, we don't know, because we don't know when the applications are going to be finalized. And the date for the applications being finalized is dependent very highly on how the COVID situation develops in Canada. Okay. I am Doc C. Thank you for the super chat. I am in the US. My copper expires on 17th of June. Is there any way I can extend it to given the COVID situation? Yes, you can. There is no problem with that. You can write to IRCC before the expiry of your copper and request for extension, citing that you don't wish to travel owing to the current pandemic scenario. You don't find it to be safe. You are quite worried and you don't want to travel at this point of time. Yeah, I mean, there's no problem with that. Ashwin says, any update on visa offices opening and working fully functional considering vaccines are coming in? AOR is March 20, meds and biometrics done. Well, considering vaccines, you see, as of right now, there is no proven data on how effective the vaccines are. Yes, we are all hoping and pinning our hopes on the vaccinations and everything, but there is no proven data to show that these are actually working. I don't expect visa offices to reopen anytime soon. I expect them to probably take their own time. They will take some time, and I'm thinking it has a lot to do with not only how the visa offices are doing, but also how the situation in Canada is. One reason why they do not want people to travel, for people whose visas have been issued after the 18th of March, is because they want to discourage travel. They want to reduce the number of people coming into Canada at this point of time, which is contrary to the fact that they badly need people to come to Canada, because that is how the economy will be revived. But until the situation is a bit more in control, until they have a bit more of a handle on what is happening right now in Canada as far as the COVID is concerned, I don't see this happening anytime soon. After biometrics, can they reject the file if documents are all in order? I mean, if your documents are all in order, why would you expect the file to be rejected? I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Like Saskatchewan, Ontario also planned to start point-based system. So any idea when it will start? I expect that probably towards the third quarter or end of the year. That is when I would expect Saskatchewan to take that, to make that move. This is still being finalized, so we still do not know. Sunil, thank you again for the super chat. What if she applies for express entry? She's eligible. Sorry, can't wait for your live from so long. Sorry for my question. Can you please provide? How can I reach you? Sunil, you can always book a private consultation. Okay. And for that, what you need to do is, okay, hold on. I'm just going to do this here so that you can figure it out. Yeah, so that's the link. askkubeir.com/appointment. You can book a consultation with myself, with me, with Nicolette, who's also an ICCRC immigration consultant, with Muhammad Abrar Khan, who's also an ICCRC immigration consultant. You can book a consultation with any one of us. And to answer your question, if your spouse is eligible to apply for express entry, then by all means, go ahead and apply for it. But that doesn't mean that will rush or make the process happen faster for her to come into Canada. That just basically means that she will still need to go through the whole application process. And only once COPRs are being finalized will she be able to travel. I should say, sorry for not being clear. We are yet to give biometrics and waiting for remedicals. Gave medicals on Feb 29. If my wife gets pregnant, if we get medical requests, then it would delay our process further, right? Again, I'm not able to understand exactly what the concern here is. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not able to understand that question at all. So I don't want to, speculate and give some other answer, which might be confusing. Okay, that one we already took. Jay says, my wife has open work permit approved before 18th of March. I am currently in Canada with job. Can she travel to Canada? My PR is in process. Well, of course, if she has a work permit approved before the 18th of March and you are in Canada and you are also a temporary resident in Canada, I would suggest that she also applies for authorization to travel. But since she has a work permit approved, but then she doesn't have a job in Canada, which then basically means that her travel may be considered as non-essential. So in order for her to travel, I would recommend that you apply for the authorization to travel. That would just make it easy for her to travel. Harsimranjit says, is students also considered as non-essential travel and need to spend 2,000? Well, Harsimran, as of right now, all air travelers need to mandatorily quarantine in a hotel and have to spend $2,000. We do expect a list of exempted categories to be released, and I expect it anytime by this afternoon or early tomorrow morning. Once we know that list, we will be able to give more clarity as to who are exempted. But as of right now, from the latest press release and the media release by the Prime Minister, he said all international travelers. He just mentioned that some essential workers may be exempted, but we don't really know who would be counted as essential worker. The cost of mandatory PCR test at the airport, this amount will be included. It will be part of the amount you are paying for your hotel quarantine. This is one of the reasons why it is getting added, or rather why the cost is $2,000. Vedant says, when is it expected for visit visa procedures to start? My friend, I mean, visit visas would be the last think that Canada will reopen, and once things are normalized, I guess, once we all go back to living normally as we used to do at one point of time, before March of 2020, I guess then they would reopen. Oh, we did this already. Oh, why am I getting repeat question? Okay. Lakan says CEC draw missing reason. Oh, well, it is, they are holding it back for some technical reasons, I assume. Let's see if it's already happened. As of right now, it did not happen this morning. No, it still hasn't been drawn. I personally feel that the draw has already happened. They just haven't announced it yet. You will always notice the date and the time difference. Why they haven't announced, I wish I knew. I mean, they didn't do it last week. Why they didn't do it, we don't know. They have been facing some technical issues. Is that the reason? I don't know. But when they will publish it, we will all know. And you will notice it that they would have conducted the draw earlier, but they publish it a bit later. Okay. Yeah, several more questions coming up. Oh, we did this one as well. Jasmine says, if I get married after AOR, assuming my IELTS expiring in March, will it in any scenario affect my application? If you get married after your AOR and your IELTS expires, it doesn't really matter because you've already submitted your application and that's what matters. Hardik says, can you please let me know the validity of medical? We just did that, right? Impact on PPR issuance in light of recent developments. Well, that is all that we have been talking about. That they will not issue, or they will not issue PPRs normally as they would be doing it, because even if they were to issue PPRs, you cannot travel. Because you cannot travel, there's no point of issuing them. For student visa, if she gets married while visa is under process, will it affect visa and PR post-study? No, it will not affect your application. Anam says, is this a good time to apply for PGD admission in Canada? Any student can come in Canada and attend classes at this time. Yes, absolutely. You can apply for your postgraduate diploma. There is no problem, no issues whatsoever. You are absolutely free to do that. And yeah, most colleges do have a COVID plan, COVID protocol plan. And students for those colleges are absolutely, they can come and travel and start their classes. On the contrary, not only that, all international students must come to Canada if they have their approvals, if they have been studying online or whatever. They must come back to Canada and they must continue the studies in person or inside Canada from, I think, effective 1st of May onwards. So if you're not going to be in Canada until as of 1st of May, then you will not be able to claim points for it. So you should be in Canada. So yes, absolutely. To answer your question, absolutely, you can do that. No issues with that whatsoever. Follow me on Instagram. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe to this channel. Give us a thumbs up if you think this video was of any value to you. Do share, do subscribe, and I will see you next time. Where did we go? Yeah. Bye.